Well, I knew and I didn't know before. I'd worked with her before, so I know in real life we have great chemistry. She's lovely. She actually has great chemistry with most people.
She's lovely. She actually has great chemistry with most people. Hollywood stars are masters of hiding their real lives. But what happens when A-list celebrities fall in love and nobody knows about it for years? One Oscar winner was secretly engaged to a rock legend while living with his teenage daughter. Another superstar hid her wedding ring pinned to her underwear for 3 years. And one famous actress dated both a mother and daughter from the same family without anyone finding out. These weren't just flings or rumors. These were real relationships that stayed buried until someone finally slipped up and told the truth. Nicole Kidman and Lenny Kravitz. In 2002, Nicole Kidman was staying in an $8 million Manhattan apartment owned by Lenny Kravitz while her own New York place was getting fixed. At first, it just seemed like a real estate arrangement. But something happened behind those apartment walls that stayed buried for over 14 years. Nicole and Lenny quietly fell in love while sharing that space. They were so careful about hiding it that they'd arrive at events separately, leave at different times, and never acknowledged each other in public. But by 2003, Nicole was seen wearing a huge engagement ring. She kept saying it didn't mean anything romantic, but something wasn't adding up. The truth was they were engaged. What made this even more shocking was that Lenny's daughter, Zoe Kravitz, who was just 13 at the time, was living there too. Years later, Zoe admitted that Nicole was like a stepmom to her. She took her to the movies and was really kind. That's the twist that stuns people now. Nicole, who later starred alongside Zoe in Big Little Lies, had once been her almost stepmother, and Zoe never forgot it. Back in 2003, Us Weekly actually broke the news that they were engaged, but both Nicole and Lenny denied it. Nicole's team released a vague statement saying he's very important to her, and that was it. By Thanksgiving of that same year, it was over. Nicole later admitted that she just wasn't ready. Her focus was still on her children, Connor and Isabella, from her past marriage with Tom Cruise. But the secret didn't stay buried forever. In February 2017, during an interview with Porter magazine, Nicole casually said, "I knew Zoe because I was engaged to her father." It shocked everyone because no one had ever heard her say that out loud. Even Zoe was caught off guard. She said, "I think she forgot that no one knew that." After all those years, the truth finally slipped out, and it changed how people looked at both women completely, Cara Delevingne and Michelle Rodriguez. Their romance lit up headlines in early 2014. It all started on January 7th during a basketball game at Madison Square Garden between the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks. People weren't watching the game. They were watching Cara and Michelle. They were courtside kissing, laughing, smoking e-cigarettes, and even doing high kicks. But what shocked people the most wasn't the PDA. It was Michelle. She was completely drunk, so drunk that people around them felt secondhand embarrassment. One person said, "Michelle was so sloppy. It was embarrassing to watch." Cara had to take her drink away at one point. It was that intense. Michelle was 35. Cara was 21. That 14-year gap didn't seem to bother either of them. In February 2014, Michelle even told the Daily Mirror that they were officially dating. She said, "It's going really well. She's so cool. She's hard, though. You wouldn't want to mess with her in a fight." For a while, it looked like they were inseparable. They traveled, partied, and were constantly being photographed. But by mid-2014, everything unraveled fast. Michelle couldn't deal with how often Cara was being seen with other female celebrities like Amber Heard, Suki Waterhouse, Kristen Stewart, and Rihanna. It wasn't jealousy as much as exhaustion. She just got tired, and then came the final blow. Cara's sister, Poppy, was getting married. Michelle was invited but refused to go. That was it. The relationship was done. In 2015, Michelle spoke about it openly. She said she could never stay in a relationship for more than 6 months. That was just who she was, intense, fast, and always burning out too soon. Her relationship with Cara was no exception. It came in like a storm and disappeared just as quickly. But for a few months in 2014, it was all anyone could talk about: Britney Spears and Colin Farrell. After her heart was shattered by Justin Timberlake in 2002, Britney Spears was looking for something that could make her feel alive again. Justin had ended things over text, then went on to be with 6 or 7 other girls, according to what Britney later wrote. It left her feeling used and empty. Then, in early 2003, while still trying to recover from that pain, Britney was introduced to Irish actor Colin Farrell. A club promoter friend brought them together while Colin was shooting the film SWAT. And what followed was a short but wild moment in Britney's life that she never forgot. She said it wasn't romantic, it was chaos. In her own words, brawl is the only word for it. She said they were all over each other, holding and grabbing and kissing like they were fighting in the street. The passion was out of control. She even visited him on set. It wasn't just a one-night thing. There was something real in how intense it all felt. But things took a strange turn at the Recruit. Premiere in February 2003. Britney showed up dressed in what she thought was a regular stylish top, but later realized was a La Perla pajama shirt with metal studs on it. She stood beside Colin, smiling for photographers, thinking they were together. But when reporters asked him about her, he said, "We're not dating. She's a sweet, sweet girl. There's nothing going on, just mates." Britney left the event right after the cameras were gone. She didn't even stick around. The rejection was immediate and public. It got worse. Colin sent her a t-shirt that read, "I slept with Colin Farrell and all I got was this lousy t-shirt." That line hit hard. Britney had been vulnerable, still healing from the Timberlake breakup, and now she was being treated like a joke. She later told W Magazine that she had kissed Colin and called him the cutest, hottest thing in the world. But she admitted it didn't mean much. She was still broken. That 2-week fling ended just as fast as it started, leaving her feeling isolated and awkward once again. Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes. Most people thought Ryan and Eva met in 2011 while filming The Place Beyond the Pines. But in 2024, Eva appeared on the Drew Barrymore show and shared something almost no one knew. She said they actually met on a plane years before the movie. That random airplane meeting planted a seed long before anyone ever saw them on screen together. It wasn't just some Hollywood fling that started on set. Their connection started in the air. The biggest shock came in November 2022. Eva was doing a TV interview in Australia and casually called Ryan her husband. That one word confirmed what many had guessed for years: they were married. But they never announced it. They never had a public wedding. The only clue was a tattoo Eva got on her wrist that said to Gosling. They had hidden their marriage for over 10 years. Even in Hollywood, where stars are known for drama and headlines, this level of secrecy was rare. Even more surprising was Eva's decision to walk away from acting completely. After working with Ryan in 2012, she quietly disappeared from the spotlight. She said, "I just worked with Ryan Gosling. He's like the best. It was such a high off my career to work with him and what we created together that I was like, this is a good time to Seinfeld it and just walk out." That was over 10 years ago. She chose her family over fame and never looked back. Their parenting style is also nothing like the norm. Eva and Ryan are raising their daughters, Esmeralda Amada, who is 10, and Amada Lee, who is 8. Far from the usual celebrity world, the girls are homeschooled, they are not allowed to use smartphones, no social media, no internet access. Eva once said, "Letting kids online today is like telling them to go out alone in the middle of the night. That's how unsafe she thinks it is." They even moved out of Los Angeles just to keep their daughters away from the Hollywood lifestyle and other celebrity kids. Margot Robbie and Tom McCurley. When Margot Robbie met Tom McCurley in 2013 on the set of Sweet Frances, she had no idea the next few years would be full of secrets, tension, and one of the most surprising love stories in Hollywood. He was just a third assistant director, and she was still rising after The Wolf of Wall Street. But what happened next didn't feel like a normal Hollywood romance. It felt like something far messier and far more real. In 2014, just a year after meeting, Margot had this wild idea. She convinced Tom and 5 of their friends to all move into a house together in Clapham, London. 7 people, 1 house, all working in film, all friends. But Margot and Tom were hiding something. They had quietly started dating. Not even their roommates knew. And when the truth came out, it wasn't cute, it exploded. Margot later said, "Shit hit the fan. Our house turned into the Jerry Springer show for a moment." People screamed. Some felt betrayed. Others thought the entire group was going to fall apart. Everyone was like, "No, this is going to ruin our group," she remembered. It wasn't just awkward. It almost ended friendships, but somehow they made it through. Then came December 2016. While most celebrities would have staged a glamorous wedding in Malibu or Paris, Margot and Tom did the exact opposite. They got married in Byron Bay, Australia, with just 50 guests. No paparazzi, no announcements, just close friends, some pizza, barbecue, and even chocolate cereal instead of a wedding cake. That was it. Margot showed up at Gold Coast Airport wearing a shirt that read, "Say I Do Down Under." And that was the only hint anyone had. But they didn't rush off to a beach after they skipped the honeymoon to work together on I, Tonya. Freezing nights in Atlanta took the place of sun and sand. Margot said, "We did this film instead of our honeymoon." That film would later change her career, but at the time, it was just two people choosing work over vacation, knowing it mattered more in the long run. They didn't even walk a red carpet together until fall 2017, nearly a full year after they got married. Kerry Washington and Namdia. On June 24, 2013, Kerry Washington and NFL star Namdia Somoga got married in Haley, Idaho. But here's the twist. They got the marriage license and held the ceremony on the exact same day. Nobody knew, not even her Scandal co-stars. One source said, "We had no idea about the wedding." This wasn't just quiet. It was military-style secrecy. Later, Kerry confessed something that left everyone stunned. She had been hiding her engagement ring by pinning it to her undergarments for 3 years. Every night, she would sleep with it, and every morning she'd hide it again before going on set. She said it was the only way to keep their relationship truly private. At the time, both of them were at their peak. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated with a record-breaking contract. She was the star of one of the biggest shows on TV. Still, they managed to date for a full year without anyone catching on. Their wedding wasn't held at a castle or a 5-star resort. It took place outdoors at a friend's house. Only immediate family and closest friends were flown in on a private plane. The ceremony was led by Namdi's sister, Minister Chisoroku. Kerry wore a slim-fitting, plain white gown. One guest described it as really regular. That was the whole point. And when it came time for their honeymoon, they vanished again, this time to a remote island off the coast of Zanzibar in Tanzania. No photographers, no press. Kerry later said she collected seashells during those 2 weeks and still keeps them close as reminders of the happiest days of her life. Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson. It started fast and it ended fast. Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson were married for just over 2 years. But the truth hiding behind that short timeline is much stranger than most people realize. When they got married in September 2008, Scarlett was only 23 and Ryan was 31. They had only been together for 12 months. And even that felt rushed. Just 2 months before he met Scarlett, Ryan had ended a long 5-year relationship with singer Alanis Morissette. They were engaged from 2004 to 2007 and never made it to the altar. Scarlett and Ryan started dating in April 2007 and surprised everyone with how private they became. Scarlett said planning their wedding felt like doing a drug deal without all the fun. They picked a remote spot on Vancouver Island, surrounded by forests, eagles, whales, and even bears. It felt more like a survival trip than a wedding. Scarlett later said it reminded her of something out of Avatar. But even with all that secrecy, paparazzi found them. Helicopters flew over the trees just to get photos of the ceremony. And then there was the gift. Samuel L. Jackson showed up with one of the strangest presents in Hollywood wedding history. He gave them 10 pounds of live bees. Not honey, not a jar bees, with bee suits. All because Ryan kept talking about nature during the filming of The Spirit. Scarlett said the buzzing was so loud they couldn't even think straight. Their marriage didn't get calmer after the wedding. Friends said there was barely any warmth between them. Scarlett admitted later that it felt like they were in competition. She told Cosmopolitan there might have been a rivalry and it wasn't healthy. She was independent and didn't like being told what to do. But Ryan wanted her to stop everything and come to him when he needed her. One insider said he acted like a control freak. By 2009, Scarlett was already giving hints. She told Time Out New York that they had no time for dates. They just worked and came home and stared at the walls. That was her exact quote. "I just stare at the wall for a few hours before I go to sleep." The tone was enough to make people feel something was wrong. They finally separated in December 2010. No big drama in the public eye, but behind closed doors, It had been building for a long time. They didn't trash each other publicly, no big fights on camera. A slow unraveling that started the moment they rushed in. Leighton Meester and Adam Brody. Leighton Meester and Adam Brody managed to date for nearly an entire year without anyone knowing. They first crossed paths at Cantor's Deli in Los Angeles. He was walking out as she walked in with her Gossip Girl castmates. It felt like a movie scene. The connection came through Josh Schwartz, the guy behind both the OC and Gossip Girl. It was almost like their lives were written to collide. They started secretly dating in early 2013 after working together on The Oranges. They even took a private trip to Bangkok before anyone had a clue. It wasn't until February 6, 2013, that Us Weekly broke the news, and by then, they were already deeply committed. They got engaged that same year in November. Just 3 months later, on February 15, 2014, they got married in an even more secret ceremony than Ryan and Scarlett. It happened by the ocean in Northern California. No press, no photos, no announcement. Us Weekly only found out on February 18th, 3 days later, from anonymous sources. When Adam Brody was asked by paparazzi on the street if he got married, he just said, "Yeah," and kept walking. That was the confirmation. Leighton later said she didn't even want a wedding at first. She was used to wearing fancy clothes and pretending for cameras. She didn't want her real life to feel like a scene. Even today, they keep things close. Their son was born in 2020, and 5 years later, the public still doesn't know his name. That's how deep their privacy goes. In an industry built on exposure, they've mastered the art of hiding in plain sight. Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst. Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst met in 2015 while filming the second season of Fargo. At first, it was just a working relationship, but something shifted quickly. Within just 2 weeks, Kirsten Dunst said she somehow knew she'd be connected to Jesse for the rest of her life, and that feeling never left. Only a few months after ending her 4-year relationship with Garrett Hedlund, she quietly started dating Jesse in March 2016. It wasn't a big Hollywood splash, no headlines, no red carpet confirmations, just to actors who locked into something real fast. By January 2017, they were already engaged less than 10 months after their first kiss. But what followed surprised everyone. They didn't rush into a wedding like most celebrity couples. Instead, they waited more than 5 years to officially marry. It finally happened in July 2022, and not at a flashy resort or Beverly Hills estate. They chose Jamaica, quiet, tropical, and far from the spotlight. But in the middle of all that waiting, life didn't slow down. Their first son, Andis Howard, was born on May 3, 2018. At exactly 8:16 a.m. at Providence St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica. Then came their second son, James Robert. In 2021, even though they met while acting together, their rule is simple: work is work. Kirsten said they don't speak to each other on set, not even a whisper between takes. She leaves him alone, he leaves her alone, and they stuck to that even when filming The Power of the Dog while she was pregnant with James. Somehow, that discipline made their connection even more interesting. And behind all the mystery and silence, there's humor too. Kirsten once joked she was nervous their son would be teased at school because Andis could easily turn into penis if you just stick a P in front. She even admitted to scrolling baby name websites for hours, trying not to mess it up. But even those small worries make their story feel more honest. What stands out most is that for years, people didn't even know they were together. They kept their life so private that their engagement came as a complete shock. And that's how they still live. No big press tours, no loud couple branding, just two people building something solid and keeping it hidden in plain sight. Colin Jost and Scarlett Johansson. In the middle of the pandemic, Scarlett Johansson and Colin Jost got married in a way no one saw coming on October 19, 2020. While most weddings were being canceled or postponed, they tied the knot in total secrecy at her $2.88 million home in Palisades, New York. But it wasn't just the wedding that caught people off guard. It was how they announced it. They didn't post a selfie or do a magazine spread. Instead, they let Meals on Wheels America break the news through Instagram using a photo of the Staten Island ferry with "Just Married" written across it. The message wasn't, "Look at us." It was, "Please donate to help seniors instead of sending gifts." That single post changed the way people thought about celebrity weddings. It was funny, heartfelt, and had a purpose. But the strange details didn't end there. Scarlett revealed that everyone at the wedding had to take COVID tests over and over again. She even had custom face masks made that said just 2020 as party favors. Later, she laughed about how weird those masks were, calling them the kind of party favor that could only exist in that strange moment in history. Even the guest list raised eyebrows. Colin's relatives in their 90s came to the ceremony. While most people were worried about protecting elderly family members during that time, Scarlett joked that they just live forever. It was bold and risky, but somehow it all worked out. And it wasn't just another wedding for her. This was Scarlett's third marriage. Her first, with Ryan Reynolds, lasted from 2008 to 2010. Then came Romain Dariac from 2014 to 2017. But for Colin, this was the first. He proposed in May 2019 with an 11-carat pear-shaped diamond ring. But the two of them actually met way back in 2006 when she hosted Saturday Night Live. They knew each other for 11 years before even dating. Something about that makes their connection feel different. They weren't in a rush. They didn't fake anything. The wedding wasn't just about love. It was about timing, humor, and authenticity. Jordan Peele and Chelsea Peretti never made a big scene when they fell in love. It started quietly in 2013, not at a Hollywood party or red carpet, but through a private message on Twitter. He had seen Chelsea Peretti's work online and was impressed. That was all it took. Some say it wasn't even random. A few close friends claimed that Andy Samberg actually stepped in to help and told Chelsea directly that Jordan was a good guy, she should really consider giving a chance, and she listened. 2 years later, in November 2015, they were engaged, but not in a flashy way. Jordan proposed during a family talent show. Chelsea tweeted about it with a laugh, saying her fiancé had popped the question right there during the fun. She added a string of lol like it was still sinking in, but it was real. In April 2016, they ran off and got married in Big Sur. There were no celebrity guests, no magazines, no grand stage, just the two of them and their dog. That dog wore a Hawaiian shirt and sat next to Chelsea's bouquet during the wedding photo, and the person who married them, his name was Soaring. That wasn't a joke or a stage name. That was his real name. Chelsea later shared this strange little detail during an interview on Conan, and even the host couldn't believe it. On July 1st, 2017, they became parents. Their son Beaumont, Gino Peele, was born almost exactly a year after their quiet wedding. But maybe the most surprising part of all this wasn't the Twitter DMs or the wedding in the woods. It was Chelsea herself admitting that she never really planned on marriage or motherhood. Something shifted after meeting Jordan. It wasn't in her script, but he rewrote it. Jordan, on his side, called marriage the best thing in his life. And yet, despite how big his name got in Hollywood, both he and Chelsea chose to keep things small, simple, and real. They didn't chase the spotlight. They protected their peace. Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz had a love story that felt like it was hiding in plain sight. They first met in 1994 in a London play called Le Grand Horizon. Back then, they weren't famous. They were just two young actors doing scenes that included staged intimacy and tasteful nudity. That early moment between them vanished into time. Craig soon married Scottish actress Fiona Loudon, and Rachel eventually started a long relationship with director Darren Aronofsky that lasted 9 years. Everything changed in 2010. That year, they were cast together in the thriller Dreamhouse, ironically playing a married couple. But this time, it wasn't just acting. After years of knowing each other, something finally clicked. Within 6 months, they got married. It happened in June 2011, and almost no one knew. Only 4 people were there: Craig's daughter Ella, Rachel's son Henry, and 2 close friends. The wedding was in New York. Craig later said with a smile, "We got away with it. We did it privately." Then came the surprise that caught everyone off guard. In 2018, Rachel gave birth to their daughter, Grace. She was 48, Craig was 50. He was already a father to Ella, who was 32 by then. Rachel had Henry, who was 18, but now with baby Grace, they were starting something brand new. Rachel said her daughter had steely blue eyes just like her dad. And in 2024, Craig admitted he started turning down more roles because he just didn't want to be away from home. Their way of loving each other is rare in their world. Rachel said talking too much about their marriage would feel like a betrayal. Craig was too famous, and she believed protecting their bond meant keeping it out of the headlines. That's why they almost never walk red carpets together and why they didn't even reveal their daughter's name. Until 2024, people talked. There were rumors during Craig's Bond years. Some said the long shoots, the heavy drinking, and the pressure strained their relationship. But through it all, they stayed together. They stayed quiet, and they stayed close.